everything on the track is about what you expect at Martinsville in that situation. I can't really blame Sheldon Creed for anything he did. He picked the outside, which is commendable. If he really wanted to just fucking wreck the guy, he'd have picked behind him. If he wanted to pick behind Austin Hill on that last restart, he could have just picked the inside of second row, drove it in there deep in turn one, shoved him up the hill, and drove away if he wanted to. But he tried to race him straight up. He got a pretty good restart. 21 dove it in there deep, missed the bottom, slid up the track, which at that point, fair game. You run into me, I can run into you. So the 2 falls in behind him, moves him up the track. Then the 21 going into turn 3 decides to door slam him, which I think is the biggest mistake Austin Hill made all year. If Austin Hill falls in behind him or races him straight up, he either wins the race or finishes second. And if he finishes second, he makes the championship 4. It's 2 RCR cars. If he finishes second, if Austin Hill runs second to the 2, there are 2 RCR cars in the final 4 at home or at Phoenix next weekend. So I think him turning left and door slamming him was the biggest mistake.
You gonna cry about it?
I've got heartburn going on.
Felt like you're crying, getting teared up.
But so I think Austin Hill made a mistake there. I understand why he did it, but I just think hindsight being 2020, that's the wrong move there for him. I think if they race it, door to door, there's a good chance Austin wins the race.
Yeah, he'll get to run off the corner.
Yeah, he had a better car than him.
Yeah.
But then they race it out. The 2 dives in there deep, slides up the track for whatever reason, slams on brakes. Austin Hill knocks the radiator out of the car, and the rest is history. Big wreck off a 4 on the final lap. 7 gets door to door with the 2. They bump to the line, and 7 wins. So 7 had no business winning that race. One of the RCR cars should have won that race. Both of the drivers' hard-headedness probably cost them. I think Austin Hill, I'm an Austin Hill fan. I know you don't like Austin Hill. I think Austin Hill's a really good race car driver. I put him in the same boat as not talent-wise, but personality-wise is Denny Hamlin. A lot of people don't like Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, hell of a race car driver. A lot of people don't like him, which is understandable. I understand why people don't like Denny, and I understand why people don't like Austin. It's because Austin kind of bitches and moans a little bit sometimes. But I think Austin has every right to be upset with his teammate there. I think I would be in the same position. I'd get out the car saying the same shit that he said. But once you have time to calm down, I think Austin realizes that, the 2 didn't really do a whole lot wrong. And I think he sent a tweet out, according to Eric Estep on his YouTube channel. He put up a YouTube video about the race and said that Austin, kind of walked back his comments a little bit on Twitter. So, I think as far as the racing goes, it's disappointing that happened, especially if you're RCR. One of those guys should have won the race. Both of them probably should have advanced, I think. So that's where the disappointment is. As far as Andy Petrie and RCR go, or Richard Childress go, that's unacceptable in my opinion. It doesn't matter if that guy's leaving or not. That's still your guy, right? You paid him to come race your car. He's done a hell of a job for you. He's almost won a ton of races. You think back to Daytona.
Just not gonna beat him to the line just like this.
Yeah, this race he probably should have won. There's been several times
he had probably the best car.
Yeah, there's been several times he probably should have won, and just circumstances kind of take it from his hand.
Darlington last year.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. Sheldon, I like Sheldon as well. It's unfortunate that he's going to Joe Gibbs because I can't root for a Joe Gibbs race car driver, but I do like Sheldon, and I like Austin as well. So I actually wanted both of them to make it ahead of Cole Custer, even though he's in a Ford. Richard Childress saying that, he's the biggest idiot that's ever driven for him. Robbie Gordon drove for him. So
I forgot about Robbie.
That's a lie.
Yeah, Robbie did some stupid shit.
So
how that ended,
was
even worse.
Yeah,
how bad Robbie drove.
Exactly. So
other than road courses.
Yeah. So that's not true. But the Sheldon's going to get out of that car and he's going to go race for Joe Gibbs and probably win 2-3 races next year. And good for him. He deserves to have a good ride. And Austin's going to stay there at the at Richard Childress. He'll have Jesse Love as a teammate, and Austin Hill Austin Hill will be a championship contender next year as well. So I think it's good for NASCAR. I think these two are going to have a rivalry going forward in the Xfinity Series, and eventually I think both of them are good enough to make it to the Cup Series. But I don't like what Richard Childress said. I don't like Andy Petrie going over there and talking shit like that. Sheldon Creed gave a great interview at the end of the race. He knew what Austin said about him. He knew Austin was upset. Gave a very professional interview and said, this is what it is. I'm leaving here next year. I try to do the best for my guys, and we're going to go out in Phoenix and try to win the race because they deserve it. So I like that interview by him. Not a huge fan of Austin's interview, but do understand why he was upset.
Obviously, I'm going to look at this incident just straight down the road. I'm not going to be biased because, obviously I've liked Sheldon Creed. I think he's a very talented race car driver. Doesn't win a whole lot of races, which you have to do in NASCAR if you want to continue to move up to the ladder. And eventually get to the Cup Series one day. You have to be able to win races. Now, Daniel Hemrick's a little different. He's going to college next year. He's only won one race his whole NASCAR career in the top 3 series. He's going to be in the Cup Series again for a second time. He's a little bit of an outlier. Most of the time, you have to be able to win races and win a lot of races in the lower series to get to the Cup Series level. That has nothing to do with this. I think Sheldon, like I said, I like Sheldon. He's going to probably go to JGR next year. Can't root for him then, which I hate, but that's who I am. I'm never going to root for a guy that goes to Toyota. I mean, I said this last week on this podcast. If Chase Elliott goes to JGR or if Ryan Blaney goes to JGR, I'm not a fan of theirs anymore. I just can't do it. It's just who I am. It's my DNA. Don't like Toyota. Never will. This incident here, I think it's just hard racing, man. Austin Hill, he started this when he didn't get a good restart, and to be fair, he said his spotter said 20 had a run, and the 20 kind of fucked up because he's trying to get a run on the 21, and then he kind of just, I don't know what happened to the 20 right there, but 21, no matter what happens, he still overdrove turn 1 and hit 2 car in the door slammed him. Hey, all right.
Who was it that's pissed off at the 20?
Sammy Smith.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he blocked him or something like that. Sammy probably had the best car all day. I know you didn't watch it, but Sammy Smith dominated the race pretty much. This kind of strategy got him behind, and he could never get back up there. He's going to JGR next year, so I'll be able to root for Sammy because Sammy's a pretty cool guy.
He's a bitch.
But so when the 21 door slams the 2, all right, all hands on deck now. 2 moves him up the track, like I said. Hard racing side by side. Going into 1 does the same thing. What people I don't think are fully understanding with this incident is, like you said, the 21 door slams the 2 going into 3. So first off, the 2 is way lower than what he was expecting to be going into 3. Probably the lowest he's been all day. So guess what you're going to try to do there? You're not comfortable with where you are in that situation. So you're probably going to underdrive or overdrive the corner. Last lap of the race, last corner, I'm going to overdrive it a little bit. And first, any other racetrack, how hard the 21 hit the 2? What happens when you hit the wall at other racetracks with that amount of force? Your car get tight. Right? Your car gets super tight. You hit the wall. Is it possible that the 2 car got really, really fucking tight because of that hit from the 21? Yeah, he turned the car, but the car didn't turn back because of how hard that 21 hit him. I'm not saying that's why he overdrove the turn 3 and 4, but that's a possibility. Because that 21 car, I mean, we saw the smoke It was a big hit from the 21 going into the 2, going into 3. Got knocked off his line, lower than he's been all day probably, and then the damage from that 21 hitting him probably caused him for that car not to turn the way it's been turning the last 40 laps going into turn 3. I'm not completely defending Sheldon Creed because he probably could have done a little better job of not allowing that 7 to get on the inside, give him that window, make the 7 car bump him and be a dragger between him and the 21. But I mean, at that point, you're trying to just clear the 21 at that point because he's already unhappy with you, so you're just trying to clear him. 2 car car didn't turn. Then he hit the brakes to help him turn to get the run off the corner. At that point, he knew, hey, I'm gonna probably have somebody on the side of me. I'm gonna try to get the best run I can and dime in the corner off turn 4, and it just didn't work. 21, he just happened to be there at the end. And to be fair, if 21, if he didn't have to blow the radiator out of his car. But like I said, it's last lap. You're not going to lift at any point. It's like a plate race. You're not going to lift. You're gonna go for everything. It's the last corner, the last lap. So I don't blame the 21 for not lifting there. But hindsight, you could have lifted there a little bit, and you would have not blown the radiator out. But
I will say this, maybe, but I mean that 20 was slow in the middle of the corner. Like
the 2.
The 2 was real slow.
Yeah,
you don't expect him to be that slow. So, you're throttling up right there.
I get what you're saying, but like I'm saying,
you expect him to be going.
Yeah, I understand. But like I said, the 2 had already suffered a whole lot of damage. Not a whole lot of damage, a decent amount of damage from the 21 side swiping him down straightaway and him being way lower on the track going into 3 than he had been probably all day.
Is there any possibility that the 2 car brake checked him?
No.
You don't think so?
No, he's going for the win. He does not care what 21's doing at that point. Why would he care? He's just trying to win the race. He's trying to get the best run off the corner to him, because at this point he knows there's going to be a car on the inside of him because how bad he's off the bottom at that point. He knows there's probably going to be a car on the inside of him coming down the front stretch.
So he's just trying to make the corner.
He's just trying to make the corner. I don't think there's any foul.
I agree, but there are a lot of people saying that maybe
they're fucking idiots.
2 brake check.
They're Austin Hill want to be fanboys or whatever you want to call it. But end of the day, I think all that was a racing incident. I think Austin Hill kind of fucked himself, like you said. If he doesn't sideswipe the 2 car there, he just kind of they're door to door going in 3 and 4. I think 21 has a possibility of getting the run off the corner and winning the race. Or if not, just finish second with the 2 car.
Yeah,
and you're still in the championship for it.
I think RCR is the biggest culprit. They have the most blame in this situation.
Yeah,
because if they could have relayed to the 21, hey, we don't need to win here.
That's true.
Follow that 2 car.
And Austin said that. He said he had no idea about the point situation and how it needed to be played out.
All he needed to do is finish second to that 2 car, and they both make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, his spotter, his crew chief,
yep,
they should have been in his ear. And it's...
You think the grandfather clock just got...
No, I don't think it had anything.
They're just like, we got to win. I want to win this race.
Fuck about winning the race. I mean, they do care about winning the race, but it's about the playoffs. It's about the championship right there. And he thinks he needs to win. So...
Well, no, I'm not saying about Austin. I'm saying the team. Is that why they didn't relay the information to him?
No. I think... I don't know why they didn't. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they couldn't give it to him, which if they
There's a stat guy on that team, on that pit box that's supposed to know all that shit.
Yeah, there should be. But, I do want to say this about RCR, and it's the last thing I'll say on this subject.
You don't let me get to that yet. I haven't got to the comment.
Go ahead. Give your synopsis first.
All right. So after the race, Sheldon Creed gets out of his car, and like you said, he got Andy Petrie bitching at him about, you don't race like that. You don't fucking do that to your teammate or whatever. Then you got Richard Childress saying what he said to reporters after the race. There's a good reason why Sheldon Creed's leaving. Yeah, and kind of like he said, he's like, obviously, Sheldon even said, he's like, obviously they like Austin Hill. He's won 4 races for him. He's done a lot of good for him in the Xfinity Series the past couple of years. He didn't even say he had no problem with it. But it's like if the roles reversed, I don't think they're even saying anything to Austin Hill, and they're not bitching at Austin Hill for anything that goes on. There's favoritism, and as much as you want to try to steer clear of that, there's favoritism at RCR, especially when you're leaving and the guy staying when he could have probably went to the Cup Series next year. He's staying with that team. Of course, you're gonna have favoritism towards him. Yeah, he's sticking with us while this guy's kind of jumping ship. But that's probably why he's leaving, because of this shit. I mean, Richard Childress for years. I mean, he's got his own grandson in the Cup Series. When we all know Austin Dillon is not. I don't think
he probably deserves to be in the Cup Series.
He does, but for as long as the leashes he's had, but RCR probably a longer leash than anybody else would get in the Cup Series. I mean, hell, we saw him get rid of Daniel Hemrick in 2019 after 1 year. 1 year. And he didn't run that much worse than Austin Dillon that year.
To be fair, they did put Tyler Reddick in the guard.
I understand that. But
the best Xfinity driver.
I get it. But for somebody, for Richard Childress, it's not like he's always been fair to drivers.
That's what I was
Yeah, so it's like, I understand why Sheldon Creed wants to get the fuck out of there. And it shows the culture at RCR.
You're either with us or against us.
You're with us or against us. We saw the thing with Tyler Reddick last year. The timing couldn't be worse. You know, in this, I've never had a driver be as stupid as Sheldon Creed. I'll tell you what, you might, if you want to think that, sure, go ahead. But there's been a lot less talented guys that have driven for you and that have not even come close to winning races in your series than Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed is contended for wins. Not maybe week in, week out, but he's contended for wins at least 10 to 12 times in his Xfinity career.
He was a fucking, he's a bumper away from making the fucking championship floor.
Yeah.
In this race.
Yeah.
And you're talking shit about him.
Yeah, so, and he could have won multiple races this year and last year, just didn't work out. And maybe that has a little bit to do with Sheldon just not closing the race or just how things work. But it's not like Sheldon Creed is a bad race car driver. He's a very talented guy. He just hasn't been able to get over that hump. And for you to say something like that, just because you're upset that both of your guys could have did some sketchy shit that could have helped both of them make the championship four, you're blaming it all on Sheldon Creed instead of putting some of the blame on your golden boy, Austin Hill. Yeah. So that's the problem I have with RCR and Andy Petrie.
And he's always been that way. And that's,
go ahead.
And that's the issue. So you think back to Robbie Gordon, when he left, I'm pretty sure he got fired halfway through 2004, if I remember correctly, because Jeff Burton took that ride over halfway through that year, or at the end, or when the playoffs started, or whatever. I know there's some bullshit. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Then you think about Kevin Harvick. The way he left was messy.
Yep. That's exactly why I'm leaving RCR. Yeah, I got them
Silver Spoon kids coming up through here.
Don't know respect.
Yeah. So
that was at Martinsville too.
And then you've got
truck race.
Last year you got Tyler Reddick. The way he left.
Mm-hmm.
This is an ongoing issue at RCR. The reason that they lose drivers like Sheldon Creed, Kevin Harvick, Tyler Reddick is because of the favoritism they show to their guys. There's no doubt in my mind that the 3-car gets more money, more effort. If they have an A part and a B part, the 3-car is getting it. There's no doubt in my mind in the Cup Series. And there's no doubt in my mind it ain't the same way for the 21 and the 2 in the Xfinity Series, because he shows favoritism. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other series or other teams, but it's obvious. It's obvious at RCR. And it's obvious that RCR has his guys, and if you're not one of his guys, he's going to talk shit about you. And that's the way he did with Tyler Reddick. It's the way he did with Sheldon Creed. It's the way he did with Kevin Harvick when Kevin left. You are either RCR for life or you're a piece of shit. And that's just not right, in my opinion. I understand being upset if you got a guy like Tyler Reddick leaving. Like, you don't want this guy that you put all this effort and time into, walking out the door. I understand that. But, there's some things that you can say and there's some things that you can't say. And calling a driver the stupidest driver you've ever had when he's still racing for you, and literally was a bumper away from getting you into the championship 4 of that series.
Does he say that if Sheldon Creed beats Justin Allgaier to the line?
Probably not. I don't think so.
He might.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You would hope not.
That would be stupid.
Because, you're making it to the championship.
Yeah.
You would hope not.
Yeah.
But, in my opinion, like I said, this incident's kind of just is what it is. I don't really put a whole lot of blame on either driver. But if you had a gun to my head and said, whose fault is it? It's Austin Hill's. And it's RCR's.